Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final day of the 2022 preseason test here at the Hockenheim Ring in Hockenheim, Germany. And hopefully, it's going to be a very exciting day for this final day here at Hockenheim. I'm JW97, and I'm joined once again by Robert Ionescu.
Hello there, Joe. Hey, everybody. Good to see you. And it looks like a fine place for some tests.
It is indeed, and of course today we will have 3 reserve drivers in the car, of course, and we will get onto those when we get onto the racetrack, of course. It could have been 4, but someone decided not to apply in time, so they've not been able to get into the car for day 4. So it's only 3 reserve drivers taking part in today's day 4 because, of course, of the new rule stating that we don't have booked practice and test sessions anymore. It now is just request only. So, I think without further ado. Let us get into the final day of pre-season testing. It's a dry day here in Hockenheim, so no rain is expected. And for once, we've actually got a clear sky for once. No cloud cover either, as we will get onto the track and then we will go through the 3 reserve drivers that are in the car. So one of them is, of course, once we get onto the track, there we go. One of them is Mohammed Usman Hamid driving the Williams. There he is in the Williams there, the Indonesian driver. And the other two, one of them a big name, Robert Ionescu, back in the top class car, and the other big name, there he is, the 5-time world champion Florian Volker is back in a top class car for the first time since he won the championship back in 2018. And as mentioned, of course, Robert Ionescu back in a top class car for the first time since 2016, and back with Red Bull for the first time since 2015 as well. And given how well Red Bull have done here, I think Rob will want to put on a show in his first outing in a top class car for a while.
Absolutely. We have Ben Fallinger being the first one out on track today.
Yep, as the Hungarian is making his way out on track. Alfa Romeo have been a little bit shaky so far, it seems, in pre-season testing. We haven't really got a bit of an indication as to what sort of pace they're going in. But I think if I was to hazard a guess, they're probably going to be lingering around bottom of Q2 to where Q1 is mainly.
Looks like the gears have been fixed. That is a very fast Alfa Romeo in the straight line.
Yuri has been able to fix those.
So we should expect faster lap times.
Yep, we did. Obviously, Yuri said yesterday he would fix those, and he has been able to fix those. Thankfully, these gear issues, and of course, it will mean that he will have to go through every track just to make sure that all the gearing works really. Seeing as we had, of course, a physics change throughout between last season and this season, of course, where the cars are obviously a little bit more slidey and a little bit more draggy, a little bit more. What I'm looking for, a little bit less draggy, I think it is, to make them a little bit more prone to slipstream, basically. So I think that's the word I'm using. I'm getting my words
a little bit more oversteery, of course.
Perhaps, as we've seen a few times, we've seen a lot of the drivers making a few mistakes throughout these last few days of testing. And
here goes her beginning his lap.
I think we're going to probably see more of that here today, as Verderi we're running on board with in the Aston Martin. Aston Martin, I think it's very safe to say that they're probably looking at a very long season in 2022.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like, I don't want to be mean, but it looks like they're dropping a stinker, at least so far, the car performance.
Indeed, as Verderi now then making his way out the hairpin. Here is Chris Chatfield, meanwhile, in the Ferrari, just on a 16.704 in the middle sector. Ferrari, I think it's fair to say as days have gone on, Rob, they have looked a bit better, but I think at this stage still not exactly where they wanted to be, given what happened last season.
I would say they're roughly at the same place they were at the start last season, but they need to aim to be where they were at the end last season, because that Ferrari was incredibly competitive in the second half of 2021. But it looks like they've.
I think Rob's having a few issues there because there was a very big delay between me and Rob.
Connection issue.
Was a big, yeah. As Ionescu's just come out of the first sector there, as he was actually up on Valdinger in the first sector, but more times have now appeared on the board, so it'd be interesting to see where he ends up Afterwards, Byrne and Chatfield have finished left. Byrne does a 1 minute 11.201 in the Red Bull. De Rosa actually slots into second. In fact, he actually slots in front of the Ferraris there. Volker goes into third. He gets in front of Chatfield as well. Lopez now goes second, 5 tenths off
Lopez
of
got a
Byrne. In
second.
fact, I don't know if there was a mistake involved in that or whether he's just legitimately 5 tenths off. Willows goes 5th, Kipok 6th, Griffiths goes 15th in front of Andrea Videri as Quag goes 14th at the moment.
Quag
Ionescu
only
goes into
14th.
second place. Ionescu goes second, and his helmet, it must be said, obviously done by me. A very good looking helmet, it must be said. Obviously some Red Bull branding on it. You can't quite see it from the top of the helmet, but he has got some Red Bull branding on there. So you might see it close up if the POV camera decides to show it off as Ionescu actually goes up in his personal best, and Mohammed Usman Hamid goes into last position, the only driver so far over 2 seconds off. But the Hasses 16th and 18th. Now you touched on yesterday how the Hasses may have dropped back a bit, although having said that, I think it might have been because Mocho's got held up in traffic because he was stuck behind Videri there. But so I'll hold that thought for the time being. But so far, McLaren added today, looking quite pretty surprisingly competitive so far.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all, but they're doing a lot better than they were, for example, in power card. As Lopez improves here again, but remains 4th fastest. Willows improves, go up to.
He actually remains in 7th place. In fact, he just only improved on his lap time as Martin's getting it all crossed up going through into the stadium section there as Quark goes 12th for the moment. Again, Renault, just looking where Renault, they are 12th and 14th at the moment. I don't know if traffic may have played a part in that, but we have said that Renault have looked a little bit unpredictable during these last few days. So I guess at this stage, you can't really tell where Renault are at the moment.
They're not exactly super consistent or anything like that, but they should hope that they can rectify all those problems.
Well, that they're we hoping to anyway, unless they're holding back at the moment at the beginning of this in this test, and maybe looking to improve later on as Wilson goes up to 14th in the Alfa Romeo. Pushes Perinin down to 15th on the topic of the Renaults there. As Ionescu again looking to improve yet again on his lap, up on his personal best in the first sector, but loses time in the middle sector. And in fact, I didn't see him improve down on the previous lap, so it seems to be that he's probably struggling a little bit to hook up that middle sector.
Well, it's his first time in an F1 car in a very long time. I think he's just getting used to it.
Well, obviously the last time Ionescu was in a top-class car, they were obviously a lot different to the cars that we have today, of course, because back then they were a little bit more slower going around the corners, and obviously these lot produce a hell of a lot more grip and downforce than the 2016 cars did, as Martin's had a bit of a moment there, so maybe just trying to get used to the faster cars than he was used to back in when he was last in the series.
Yeah, it could be the case. Martins doesn't improve on his lap there, and I don't expect the Williams did either.
And
because obviously there is a Williams behind him.
Did obviously touch upon Williams the last few days. It does seem that they're kind of in a similar sort of position to what they were in previous seasons, really. And well, despite the engine change, it seems that Williams probably looking at another very long season ahead of them.
Here goes Byrne trying to that field, and oh no, I think everyone is getting bad flashbacks from last season.
Perhaps indeed, or he's probably learned from what George Roque did yesterday with Andrea Videri. You may remember, of course, yesterday Roque causing an accident with Andrea Videri at the first corner, and well, it meant that
just a nice friendly punt.
And meant that Videri's session was completely over as a result, and Roque had to come back to get a new front wing. Of course, yesterday as well, we also saw a mechanical problem for one of the Ferrari drivers. I think that was Chris Chatfield, if I'm not mistaken. And
looks like Willows might be coming into the pits. He doesn't have a problem, I don't think.
No, because otherwise you'd see the red indicator on the top of the def panel. I think this is just an actual pit stop. But as I was saying, obviously Ferrari had issues yesterday with Chris Chatfield's car, and who knows really, maybe a bit of a cause for concern for Ferrari there.
Could be the case. Motor improves by only in 18th position, and what is going on with Haas today? They seem to be completely off the pace.
Perhaps, unless they're just warming up at the moment and maybe going for a push a little bit later on. But yeah, 17th and 18th. for the Hasses there. That is a little bit of a surprise.
Absolutely right. As here we have the Red Bull trying to pass Roman Quag.
Yep, I'm not sure which Red Bull that is. It's a Cura, so I think that's going to be Evan Byrne. As Martin's now then coming towards the middle sector, and 1.1 seconds off of Byrne at the moment is now Ionescu crosses the line, and he does not improve. And it wasn't Ionescu, in fact, that got held up by Quad, not Byrne. I do apologise for that.
Slap.
But as now look at Ionescu now. Then he's just making his way through into the right and left-hander he goes now then, as he was struggling to get by on Quag there, as Griffiths is coming back into the pits, this time by in the Williams. Perrin, meanwhile, gets himself into the top 10, so he's able to find a little bit more pace in that Renault, so maybe just building up speed at the moment, as the two Hasses look like they're holding each other up, and I do wonder if the tyre wear might be a little bit of a case there, because we saw Kloss was closing in his teammate quite rapidly there, so I wonder if, even though we're on the medium tyres, I wonder if the tyre wear is on the high range when it comes to degradation for the mediums.
Might be after all. We'll have to wait and see, of course.
Is of course coming back into the pits. He's currently 19th at the moment. Teammate Sontag, he's obviously not taking part in today's session, of course, because Mohamed Osman Hamid is in the car. Hamid, so far, whilst he has been able to improve on his first lap, he's still the only driver at the moment to be over 2 seconds off the pace so far, as Roman Quar crosses the line and does not improve, stays in 13th place at this point in time. A load of drivers are actually coming back into the pits after these runs, and yesterday, of course, we obviously had some people get checkered flags next to their names. People were finishing off their runs pretty early, it seems, and I think it's safe to say that we're probably going to be getting that today as well towards the end of the session, Rob.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a short track, at least compared to Paul Ricard, so and the lap times are pretty quick, so they're gonna finish their count before the end of the session, most people. Meanwhile, in the top 4, looks like we have the usual suspects, but the ones right after that are quite a welcome surprise. We got the Rosso in the McLaren, Volker in the Lamborghini, and Willows in the other McLaren, all of them in the top 7, and that's quite impressive for all 3 of them.
Yep, as Chung is coming back into the pits at the end of this lap. Volker currently 6th for the moment in the Lamborghini. Of course, Lamborghini look to have been struggling so far throughout these tests, but Volker seems to be able to find a little bit more speed in the Lambo. I think 6th place is actually the highest the Lambo has got throughout these tests so far. The highest I think they've actually got so far is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the highest they've got was 8th position with Lower Chung yesterday. So Volker able to extract a little bit more at the moment. Clearly, at the moment, not losing any speed, because obviously he hasn't been
a massive improvement here.
Yep, so Kloss may be able to... I mean, Kloss, let's not forget, he has been struggling so far to adapt to this Haas, but it looks like maybe he's on for a very good lap. So maybe now the Haasses are starting to open up the taps a little bit, and let's see where he's going to place himself.
Better late than never.
Kloss across the line, goes 4th. That's a very good time for the Polish driver. And, well, that's very encouraging.
Woken up, it seems.
Yep, Mocho's back in the pitch. That would suggest to me that he was on dead tyre. So I would imagine that once he gets on a fresh set of medium tyres, we should expect Mocho to also improve later on. But once again, Haas, very impressive at the moment.
With one of the cars, yes. But Mocho still needs to do a little bit more work to find the same pace Kloss had. Because they're back in working order, these Haas.
Yep, as we now look at Amelia Wilson, who's just coming into the hairpin there. She's coming back into the pits at the end of this lap. Wilson currently 16th at the moment, ahead of her rookie teammate, Bent Valdinga, as Wilson going flat out through the right-hander. There has been some, I think there has been, fair to say, a bit of a debate about Wilson's move to Alfa Romeo, because given the pace that her previous team has been showing during these tests, a lot of people are wondering, has Amelia made a bit of a mistake moving to Alfa Romeo?
Could be. Of course, the competition for Haas was very difficult, so I'm not sure what the factors were behind her decision, but maybe she felt she couldn't be retained by Haas. Of course, we'll ask her if we can catch her on the Discord, of course. Because she's not super active.
Either that, or she felt that she didn't believe the team were in a position where they could actually progress, but clearly they've shown leaps of progression as Mocho's back out on the track, and ironically comes out behind Bartri's Kloss, who Kloss was actually held up by For obviously, Kloss got held up by Mocho earlier on, and it seems Mocho might end up having the
Not
same
again.
fate happen to him. If unless he's able to find a clear bit of track, because he'll obviously be on more fresher tyres now than what Kloss is on.
Yeah, could say that. And let's see, of course, Mocho can get some clean air to actually push that car.
As meanwhile, Chatfield has gone up into 6th position, exactly 5 tenths behind Evan Byrne there. As of course we mentioned earlier on that there could have been a 4th reserve driver in this session today, that being Nikola Zorbach in the Haas. Although, despite the fact that I did pass on information from, because Mocho did offer to give his seat up for Zorbach on day 4, despite the fact that I did pass on information to Nico didn't actually respond. So yeah, he didn't respond in time, which is why you're seeing Mocho still in the car today. And yeah, as Yuri jokingly said, he said that Zorbach might be sleeping in the motorhome.
Yeah, indeed. Lopez doesn't improve, and the Lamborghini doesn't either. Only 2 cars in Infinity. As Klaus looks like his tires are wearing down a little bit. He's a 10th off in the first sector. And it appears that that could be a little bit of traffic in front of McLaren and Ferrari up front. And Mocho is catching up to him. Martins improves meanwhile, but stays in second last.
1.6 seconds off of Byrne, and just over a tenth behind Jamie Griffiths' Williams at the moment. 20th and 22nd for the two Williams Lamborghinis at the moment. Let's see what Bartsch's Kloss's middle sector is like, and we won't because the camera decides to cut away to Martins, who's currently holding up one of the Red Bulls at the moment, that being Evan Byrne, because it's the Acura logo that you can see on the rear wing there. So Byrne goes through there.
Hamid improves to get within 2 seconds of Byrne, but still in last.
John goes up to 8th, in fact gets in front of a teammate Florian Volker in this session, so 8th and 9th now for the two Lamborghini drivers. Mocho goes up to 11th, so a little bit better now for the Hasses now, 4th and 11th, so roughly where we've seen the two Hasses be throughout the day, albeit throughout the last few days, albeit the other way around, as Gal goes into the top 10.
Could there be an argument perhaps towards Haas having the 3rd best car? Do you think that could be possible?
I think it's a little bit too far of a reach. I would potentially say they're in the battle to be the 4th fastest car. I'm still convinced Renault might have the 3rd fastest car, even though they're not showing it at the moment during this session. But judging from what we've seen in previous sessions, I would be tempted to say that Renault have probably got the 3rd best car, and then it's a toss-up really between Haas, AlphaTauri, Ferrari, and even Lamborghini as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Again, looking at McLaren's pace, they might not be too far off, because we did mention in day 1 that we thought that maybe they're going to be backwards this season, but as we've seen for the last few days with Willows in the car, and even here in Hockenheim, they might actually be a little bit okay at the moment. I think they would have preferred to maybe progress a little bit from last season, but considering this is BMW's first season back, I don't think they'll be too disappointed.
No, definitely not. It takes a while to adjust to a new engine as Galloway goes off track a little bit. Bernian improves meanwhile.
And that's because he was getting overtaken there by, I think it was Bartsch's Kloss was trying to get by, and it's allowed the McLaren and Kloss's teammate Mocho to also get by. As now look at this, it's going to be madness going down towards the hairpin here with these four cars.
Race.
Practicing some slipstreaming here to see how effective the new slipstreaming physics are, as De Rosa gets by into the hairpin there. BMW car getting by on a Ferrari powered car there. So maybe the BMW does have a bit of grunt, as we've seen in previous seasons.
Hold on, here it comes.
As we've seen in previous seasons here at Hockenheim, the Haas gets back underneath, and it's usually quite a common trait, I think, in F2 mainly, but I've rarely seen that happen in a top class. So maybe with this new slipstreaming physics, we might see...
Looks like this battle will be ending, though. Kloss is about to come into the pits.
As I was about to say, when we get here, of course, for round 6, of course, I wonder if that's going to be a treat throughout the race.
Could be very well indeed. Either way, Kloss will be happy with his efforts so far. Here goes De Rosa finishing a lap, though it's completely been ruined. And you can see 2.5 seconds off his personal best.
Yep,
Bernian improves yet again, meanwhile, to go up into 12, but I think he might be getting impeded in the next few laps.
Perhaps indeed. I'm not sure if any of the Renault drivers have actually pitted yet. I wonder if they've been roaming around for quite a while and have not pitted yet. So maybe they could be on very, very old tyres and we've still yet to see the actual pace of the Renaults. But we'll wait and see, of course, as the session progresses.
Yeah, it could be. I'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, here we have De Rossi still, as Perrin has made his way past Mocho to try to fight him back.
And as now Mocho goes into the left-hander. And I have people saying my brother is the new team principal at Williams for some reason. Because
James Wells sounds similar to James Wells.
Well, I don't think it's that. It's mainly because Michael said that James has become the new team principal, but he didn't give a last name, so everybody assumed he meant James Willows. My brother, who hasn't actually been in the top class since 2011 and hasn't been in the series since the 2018 season, I think. So yeah, he's been in the retirement home.
Maybe the real. Oh man, maybe the real Williams team principal is James Charles, the influencer.
Well, I don't think we need to talk about him. So anyway,
okay, fair enough. Yeah.
As we now make our way down towards the hairpin now, then, as Galloway currently down his personal best in the first sector now, then. Currently, at the moment, car is currently splitting the two Red Bull drivers. Of course, yesterday it was a Red Bull 1-2 with George Roque. Obviously, this track being a favourite of his, given the nickname that this track has got, Hockenheim. Was the only driver to break into the 1-minute 10s, and so far nobody's showing any signs of somebody breaking into the 1-minute 10s today at the moment.
Looks like even the tweak to the gears didn't change lap times very much, honestly.
Perhaps indeed, but we will wait and see. Of course, we'll wait to see if Byrne can possibly open up the taps a little bit more later on in the session. And apparently, Flo says that DTM will more likely start on the 3rd and 4th of February, which is, if I'm not mistaken. If I look on the dates, that's in, 3 weeks' time. That's a bit of a gap. Normally DTM testing usually starts on the weekend after the Australian Grand Prix happens. But clearly Flo's got other commitments at the moment, which is why it's starting possibly a little bit later. So anyway, as Griffiths going side by side there with one of the Lamborghinis there. Of course, Williams running Lamborghini engines, so probably both of these teams being a little bit more careful towards each other, given Williams are customers to Lamborghini this season, as they both make their way down the straight. Not sure which Lamborghini that was trying to pass Griffiths. It's actually Florian Volker that was trying to get by, of course. Volker, of course, having very good memories around here in Hockenheim. In his last season in the top class, he was able to finally win his home Grand Prix after many seasons of trying. And, obviously now back in a top class car after 4 seasons away. There has been a few changes to the top class car since he was last here, of course. You remember the front and rear wings have obviously had a change since he was last in the top class. And so far, looking pretty decent in the Lamborghini so far.
Yeah. Right, so he'll.
As I think Rob's having a few lag issues there, but Yui's just pointed out to us in the
about that.
Yui's just pointed it out to us in our little chat here that Volker reached 346 kilometers an hour whilst he was overtaking someone, aka when he was slipstreaming the Williams in front. So you're going to be possibly seeing some insane top-end speeds from this season's cars.
That's something I like to hear, man. Should be very entertaining.
And it looks like the new slipstreaming physics that we've got for this season as well look to be working, as we saw with Volker getting by on the Williams there of Jamie Griffiths, that was, as he's currently down his personal best in the first sector. We now look at his teammate for today, Loa Chung, who's just making her way through into turn 1, and obviously back in 2020 she had probably the scariest brake failure you could ever imagine in the series, really. When she went into the first corner, her brakes failed, and it meant that the car spun in a kind of a similar way to how we saw Kimi Räikkönen's rear wing failure happen in 2004. So as Yuri's just given us some more information about the Lamborghini, as I think we might have seen it with Chung as well. Without slipstream, they actually were doing 339 miles per hour. Fastest without slipstream, apparently, was Kirishima DeRosa in the McLaren. But at 342 miles per kilometers an hour, and given that's a BMW engine, maybe they do have grunt, it seems. Maybe it's the chassis department that might be the thing that's holding McLaren back.
Well, we couldn't tell very well yesterday because of the gear issues, but now that's all been sorted. It looks like McLaren are leaps and bounds better than they were at Paul Ricard, so maybe that engine might be really powerful.
As Chung now then making her way around the final turn in the Lamborghini as she makes her way onto the pit straight now then. And she does not improve. She stays in 8th position so far. As Lopez improves to go up into 3rd position. So now 2 and 3 for the Mercedes drivers. And we mentioned it yesterday during the test, Rob, because I think it's safe to say that we're possibly looking at another battle between Red Bull and Mercedes for the championship. And it's safe to say that if Red Bull aren't able to get consistent 1-2s this season, Mercedes may give them a little bit of trouble in their defence to their title.
Well, as the Red Bull reserve driver, I'm not really allowed to comment on that, do I? Because I can't talk badly about my own team. But yeah, I think it'll be a very entertaining title fight.
As Ionescu goes to the top of the timing sheets now, 1 minute 11.107 now, so it is now a Red Bull 1-2, but still no one's been able to break into the 1 minute 10s like George Rote did yesterday.
He did a 10-8 if memory serves me right.
It was a 10-9, I think. I think I've still got the screenshot of it actually somewhere on here, so let me just quickly double check.
All right.
It was a 0.9, yeah, so 1 minute 10.977 he did yesterday, the George Roke. So we're still on the 2 temps. We're still on 2 temps. Oh, we've got a problem. That's Valdinger, a mechanical failure.
Valdinger's out of the session.
That is a throttle problem. Benz Valdinger, and as Rob just said there, that is his session done with because of the spare car ban. So, yeah, a stuck throttle for Benz Valdinger. Luckily, it didn't go as dramatic as what we've seen with Franco Gamba and Laura Chung in the past.
Yeah, of course, throttle issue can be quite difficult. These cars don't have traction control, so if you jam the throttle all the way, you might end up spinning and hitting the wall, but thankfully for Valdinger, he was able to stop it relatively safely.
Indeed, as Valdinger is now getting hoisted over the barriers when they can find a gap in the wall, that is, to get the car over there. And of course, now they're getting it over the wall, and of course the spare car ban will then be implemented once his car has just gone over the barriers and once the pit symbol is next to his name, which it is. So not in the pits just yet, I don't think. His car's not spawned in the pit lane just yet.
Alfa Romeo struggling a little bit in these 2 Hockenheim days, to be honest. And now they only have 1 car left in the run.
As we wait to find
Looks like Guy is improving.
He's now split the 2 the 2 Red Bulls now, and he remains, and he now goes into 2nd place. Valdinger's car is still not spawned in the garage just yet, which is surprising, as Wilson is the only Alfa Romeo. There he is. Now we can get the spare car ban implemented. So took a bit of a while there, but eventually Valdinger's car was retrieved and is now back in the garage. So just bear with as the spare car ban gets implemented. But yeah, looking very, very close. The top 3 now only separated by 900ths of a second.
Yeah, very, very competitive there at the top. And as I said earlier in this session, is the usual suspect, isn't it? Usual suspect, sorry.
Yep, Red Bulls and Mercedes at the top of the merit, making up the top 4 at this stage. And yeah, I think I share that opinion as well, Rob. Especially because of the top end speed that we're seeing, it's going to be interesting to see when we get to Monza. That's for sure. That high speed track, which normally for us in the OC across all the series that go to Monza, it's usually a slipstream fest. So you can imagine what that's going to be like in the races.
And I already asked to be taking part in that practice session, so oh boy, I can't wait for it.
Obviously, you'll need to remind Yuri when it comes to that, of course, because
yeah, of course.
Yuri says everyone dies at turn 1, race over. Well, hopefully not.
Reminds me of that thing that happened the FMC season 3 when there was a massive crash and everybody got involved in it except for Bottas who went on to win the race.
Yep, because he took
You
avoiding
still remember
action.
that? Yeah.
Because he took avoiding action, and well, everybody was kind of stuck really because of an Etihad issue that happened at the first chicane, really. But yeah, hopefully that's not the case in the OC, of course. But anyway, as Chung now then makes her way towards the end of the second sector, 7 tenths down on Ionescu in the middle sector, as she now makes her way through the long swooping right-hander now then, before she makes her way towards the hairpin, as Ionescu coming back into the pits, and now we're going to see a comparison between the BMW and the Honda here. And Rob actually got up to 340 kilometers an hour there with slipstream there. So yeah, you said that without slipstream, Kirishima DeRosa did 342. So is the BMW actually that powerful, or did you mean with slipstream? Because I'm finding that a little bit hard to believe that he made it to 342 without slipstream. So yeah, that's a little bit interesting. Oh, okay, it was without, according to Yuri. So maybe the BMW engine is very powerful then. It's just downforce. It seems the McLaren is really lacking.
Could be the case, or maybe they're running a low drag philosophy as well. That could be a factor. Obviously, since they're the only ones, the BMW engine, we can't tell if it's down to low drag or the engine performance in itself. Nevertheless, whatever it is, they're doing quite well.
I guess another way we can find out is possibly Joseph Willows' top end speed when he's not in slipstream. I don't know if he's running a drag or not, but if he's not running drag and he's slower, then we know what the actual reason is. But that could be something to keep an eye on, especially when we get to power tracks throughout the season.
Yeah, definitely. And looks like Galloway's finally started to step on that throttle and get himself out in 5th place as his teammate is trying to overtake a Williams, and he does.
Yep. As Chatfield just gets by on the Williams, as mentioned there. Chung coming back into the pits in the Lamborghini. So with just under 17 minutes to go, this is what the leaderboard currently looks like then. Ionescu at the top with Carr in second, Byrne in third with Lopez in fourth, Galloway is in fifth with Kloss in 6th, Chatfield 7th, DeRosa in 8th with Chung in 9th, Kupak got up to 10th early on with Volker in 11th, Gal in 12th, Willows in 13th, Perrin in 14th, Quad 15th, Mocho 16th, Wilson 17th with Valdinger no longer in the session of course because of that mechanical failure in 18th, Videri 19th, Griffiths 20th, Martins 21st and Hamid in 22nd position. And looking at 11th to 13th, does anybody remember when those three were in a title fight? Long time ago.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's kind of like one of those Jesus, remember those times.
Yeah.
What a moment. But yeah, Volker getting in front of two of his former teammates there, Gal and Willows, and yeah, that's that. As one of his other teammates,
and it's
Lopez,
the former Toro Rosso teammates who are first and second at the moment.
Yes, you're correct on that one. Yes, Ionescu and Carr were teammates at Toro Rosso in 2010.
And both of them debuted in 2009 after a driver was injured once. That of course Viggo Holst, not Viggo Holst, the other Renault being injured, Finley Strachan, and Finley Strachan, and then Carr making his debut after Victor Bobo was injured because of a crash he had not in the race, if you can remember that.
Yep, as Wilson just comes out of the first sector, 1/10 down on her personal best, has got a Haas right behind her at the moment, her former team in fact. And yeah, a lot of people, as mentioned, questioning, has Wilson made a mistake moving to Alfa Romeo given the pace that we've seen from the Haasses so far in this session? Although, looks like Mocho is being a little bit conservative today in this session as he's currently down in 16th, whereas Kloss looks like he may have finally been able to get to grips with that Haas, unlike what we've seen in the previous 3 days with the Polish driver.
Galloway is also another thing to note. He's been doing quite well in this day 4 of testing, and I think that Ferrari could be quite powerful after all.
Dog commentator going mad in the background. Again.
What is a day? We can't have a day without the dog commentator, can we?
No, we can't.
All right, fair enough.
So Anyway, so yeah, I'm just looking where Galloway was yesterday. He actually got the Ferrari in sixth, so he's currently up in fifth at the moment with the Ferrari, 4 tenths off of Ionescu. So, and he was also 4 tenths off of Roque yesterday. So, yeah, maybe Ferrari could be in that fight for maybe the best car with Renault. I don't know, and maybe they were just
That
holding
feels not
something
doing
back.
too
But then
bad
again,
either here.
but let's not forget, of course, that Ferrari didn't look all too well at Paul Ricard, and that's not a power track, even though it has got a long straight. It's more, I'd argue, it's more of a downforce track. Paul Ricard is than a power track, if I'm being totally honest.
I'd say I tend to agree with you. Porker and Hockenheim are pretty similar. It's just that Hockenheim has a lot more high-speed corners. Paul Ricard is mostly about medium-speed corners and those 2 long straights, or 2.5 long straights. But for Hockenheim, it's either short to medium-length straights and very fast corners, including the flat-out parabolica, which is de facto a straight, even though technically you still have to turn to go through it.
Yep, as we just saw Ionescu there get by on David Kupok as the German driver. Is he going to try and re-overtake Ionescu into the stadium?
Don't think he's close enough.
And when I meant stadium, I meant the Mercedes grandstand area. So, yeah, so he wasn't able to get that done. Perinen goes up to sixth, so now we're starting to see some more pace from the Renault now, as Perinen is finally able to get some pace in that car, and he slots just behind Galloway at the moment. So, kind of reiterating the point that on power tracks, at least, Ferrari could compete with Renault this season, but on downforce tracks, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, today it looked like Renault was quite underwhelming, but they finally decided to remove the sandbags a little bit, and Perinin has shown some impressive pace there. He's competing with Galloway.
Yep, and Gal now then coming towards turns 2 and 3 now then. Well, I
Let's
guess
see how this Honda does in the slipstream.
We saw what Ionescu was able to do earlier on. I think that he might not be in the slip. It looks like he's going to reach 340 again. Wasn't able. I thought he was going to climb a little bit higher than 340 there, but clearly not. He was able. He only just missed out on the 341 mark there. So yeah, decent.
He didn't really get a lot of dough, but quite good.
And yeah, so Gal now then just coming around the left-hander as he's trying to chase after the Ferrari in front with just over 11 minutes to go in this final day of pre-season testing, as he's now 7 tenths down in the middle sector. Again, though, the AlphaTauri drivers have been relatively quiet when it comes to their pace throughout this testing period, even though I think it's safe to say for the eagle-eyed viewer that I would imagine they'd be quite satisfied with where they are, considering where they were last season.
Maybe they won't be showing too much emotion right now, but when both of them make it through Q3 in Australia, I guarantee they'll be jumping for joy, assuming that happens, of course.
Yes, providing they don't hit the roof whilst they're doing it. As Gal now making his way through the corners, he's got a Red Bull and his teammate just behind Kupok. So that car in front of Kupok there should be Robert Ionescu, because we saw Ionescu earlier on overtake Kupok. In fact, there's a load of cars.
Byrne is also out on track further ahead.
There is a lot of cars on that same straight that particular occasion, so a little bit like motorway traffic we're looking at here at the moment.
And since we're in Germany, we might as well call it the Autobahn traffic. No speed limits either.
But as well, yes, as now Gal just goes around the right-hander. And once again, 7 tenths down the middle sector, so kind of doing roughly similar sort of lap times on this occasion, so staying roughly consistent with lap times on this lap compared to his previous lap, as he just makes his way through the banked left-hander before making his way through the final 4 turns on the racetrack. And as mentioned,
and he's got a lot of fuel in his wagon. He's just working on his consistency right now. Nobody's pushing, of course. It's all about gathering data, and it looks like Gal is doing the race simulation at the moment. He's doing quite well. His pace is quite consistent, as is his tire management. Meanwhile, Byrne here makes an overtake on Griffiths.
Yep, and that might affect Griffiths' run down the straight as a result, because
yes, totally.
having to overtake him, and so as he makes his way towards the hairpin now then, and in fact he's still got up to around 341 there, so still able to reach a good speed despite that. As speaking of Lamborghini engines, Chung just gets by on the other Williams, so that would be Mohammed Usman Hamid that she just got by there going into the hairpin, and starting to see quite a lot of overtakes in this session. Here is Mohammed Usman Hamid right now using a Vitantonio Liuzzi helmet, as that's the helmet he requested for this season. So Liuzzi helmet for Hamid, as he now makes his way through into the right-hander there. Ionescu currently getting held up by his former teammate, Miklos Gal, in fact. Of course, both of them were teammates at Red Bull for 2 seasons, before Rob, of course, moved to Williams for 2016, and Gal ended up with Carr as his teammate. But, yeah, as Ionescu probably not too happy with being held up by Gal at this stage, and as
it's
Ionescu
no big deal.
As he's going to try and pass him into turn 1 if he can, but he can't. Both of them, of course, running a Honda engine in the back, and I wonder if Q-Pop's going to maybe re-overtake here in Escuder. As
he might have a chance.
As we now ride on board with Miklos Gal. He's actually coming back into the pits this lap, so he's going to be done with this run at the very least. And so with just under 10 minutes to go, this is what the leaderboard now looks like. It's Ionescu top with Carr in second, Byrne in third with Lopez fourth, Galloway in fifth, Perinen is in sixth with Kloss in seventh, Chatfield in eighth, DeRosa ninth with Chung in 10th, Kupok in 11th with Volker 12th, Gal in 13th, Willows 14th, Quag in 15th, Macho 16th, Wilson in 17th with Valdinger in 18th, Videri 19th, Griffiths 20th, Martins 21st, and Hamid in 22nd position. As Gal now then just making his way around the right-hander there, as he will of course be heading back into the pits this time by, as he'll be, I wonder if he'll come out for one more run. I wonder though, he might, I think he would do, but it just depends on how much time there is left on the clock.
Yeah, I think he will, but just depends how long he'll stay in the pits here. Shouldn't be too long though.
Yep, as Gal makes his way into pit lane, as now Ionescu will have a clear track in front of him for a little bit, because there is a Williams that he's fast approaching into the first corner there. I think it's a Williams.
If I'm not mistaken, that helmet is based on a Sebastian Vettel helmet, but with a different color scheme.
Yes, it is, and that is the helmet that you requested, in fact.
Yep.
It is based on that design, and also has some Red Bull branding on it as well, just to keep it in line with the team that Rob is driving for.
Let's check the entry lane speed of the Honda.
339 on that occasion. He did reach 340 in slipstream, so he's only 3 mph off the BMW without slipstream there, so not too far off it seems. But,
yeah, definitely.
Interesting really that BMW have got some very good speed in the back, but currently not able to get any higher up in the order. So it must be the chassis that's holding them back if the engine is very powerful.
Yeah, indeed, and McLaren, of course, have had to design a completely new chassis to adapt for the new power unit, and that's where they fell short, I think. Their engine is incredibly good, but they were slacking off a little bit of the chassis, and as a result, in the corners, their performance has gone down compared to last season.
Perhaps as Hamid doesn't improve, stays currently in last. So far, the whole pack's still under 2 seconds between each other. The whole pack separated by 1.922 seconds from Ionescu to Hamid at this stage. As Hamid just making his way out of turn 3.
It's quite fun. One of the reserve drivers is in first, the other is in last, and the third reserve driver is right in the middle in 12th.
Slap bang in the middle. As now Hamid just making his way into the hairpin there then, as we'll now approach the flat-out right-hander quite soon now then. And just getting a little bit more mileage under his belt as the Williams reserve driver. As so far, Carr is currently in the pits at the moment. A few cars currently in the pits. No one's got the checkered flag next to the name. Lopez, meanwhile, improves, and now the whole top 4 are now under 10th away from each other. So Red Bull and Mercedes.
Of the last massively.
Red Bull and Mercedes, it's fair to say, very, very close in terms of car performance.
Yes, absolutely right. Of course, though, we don't. This is race performance. We don't know what it's like in qualifying, and we won't know until we get to Melbourne.
Indeed so, as Ionescu, speaking of checkered flags, he now gets a checkered flag next to his name. Now, of course, again, that doesn't mean his session is over just yet. It just means that as soon as he gets the pit indicator on his def panel, that will be the end of the session for him, because, of course, his car won't be able to go back on the track once the checkered flag is next to his name on the timing tower on the left-hand side there. So, yeah, I think Ionescu will still do a few more laps. He might even still keep going until the actual checkered flag comes out, but we will wait and see. But at least we know that this is definitely his final run in the session. And I would say for Ionescu, a very successful return to driving top-class cars. Who knows, really? Could we see Ionescu back in a top-class car for racing purposes for next season? Who knows? Lopez goes up to second.
Well, it depends. He needs to do well enough in Formula E, of course, if he wants to get a seat.
I mean, it's basically been progress for Ionescu, really, as Kloss goes up into 6th, gets in front of Perinen, who now gets the checkered flag next to his name. But as I was saying, of course, it has been progression, really, it's safe to say, for Ionescu. Of course, he had a little bit of an okay season in his first season Formula E, and the second season was in the title fight, but dropped out of it before the finale. But yeah, I think Ionescu determined to do well in 2022 if he wants any chance to get back in the top class.
Well, it'll be his third season in Formula E, and you know what they say, third time's a charm, so could be the case. We'll see. If he's smart with his sign-ups, he might very well end up on the grid, but of course we're a long way away from the sign-ups. We don't know what anybody's going to go for right now.
Well, Chatfield having a bit of a moment into the first corner there, a little bit
nice track extending.
Yeah, although I do think he will lose time, judging from the fact he was having to try and get the car a little bit there. So, yeah, I don't think this will do much to his lap time.
A lot of time.
You see, 8 tenths off his personal best in the first sector. So
Lopez, meanwhile, after improving for 2 straight laps, has come into the pits.
As
Aston Martin's improves, meanwhile, yet again, and I said Aston Martin's on purpose. It's Jonatas Martins, he's still in 21st.
Yeah, people have been using that as a bit of a joke ever since Martins got confirmed to be driving for Aston Martin back at the Brazilian Grand Prix last season. So as Lopez is back in the pits, same with Galloway, as now De Rosa has got the checkered flags to his name, as does Evan Burns. So both Red Bull drivers have now got checkered flags next to their names, as Chatfield just going around the banking there. And he is just going to complete his lap. Of course, his lap was ruined, and it's more ruined now because he's gone for a spin. So, yeah.
Driver spinning in a Ferrari, I don't want to talk about this.
Oh, we did talk about...
If I speak, I'm...
Yes, and including a Sebastian Vettel helmet in that as well. But we did touch upon it yesterday with Ferrari as well. We did see that both Galloway and Chatfield were struggling with the balance of the car yesterday. And, well, it seems, again, Chatfield is struggling with it here today because he's just gone for a spin.
Well, they're doing better on lap time at least, but the car is still difficult to handle.
That's obviously something that I think we'll
probably need to keep an eye on. And the spin onto the drag strip, thankfully it wasn't in the wide.
That's obviously something we'll probably need to keep an eye on throughout the course of the season, because that could be something that prevents Ferrari from getting some decent results throughout the season. As Lopez, I think, is going to get out on track before the session comes to a close, so he will get one more flying lap before the session ends. As well, I think we're now going to keep
get a clean lap in is the question.
So I think we're now going to stay on board with these drivers for the remainder of the session. Martin's done improve. Here comes Kirishima De Rosa in the McLaren. He stays in 9th. Kloss got held up there and stays in 6th, but he's had a very good session. Has the last season's runner-up from World Champ car. Car got held up there by the AlphaTauri. Galloway will get, I think, at least 2 flying laps in before the session comes to a close, and I wonder if he's going to have issues with the balance. Byrne is done for the day. He's now going back to the pits. And that's his session done with, because of course he's got the checker flag next to his name. Volker will get at least 2 flying laps in, as he's got Roman Quarg right behind him.
Struggling today.
Both of them, both Volker and Quarg, have something in common in that they actually were victims of that turn 2 rollover bump at Interlagos. Quarg did it in 2015 and Volker did it in 2016, and obviously somebody did it last season as well, which gave, I'm trying to think, somebody lost their front wing. George Rote losing his front wing, but I can't remember exactly which driver it was that had the mechanical issue that caused them to roll early. I'm pretty sure somebody in the stream chat will mention it. But anyway, as Videri just comes out of the final turn, And across the line he goes. He doesn't improve. Here comes Kupok in the AlphaTauri, and he's down
Finally,
on his first.
Federi will be somewhere other than 20th.
Yes, he's 19th, unless Griffiths or Martins improve, then he will go down to 20th. Speaking of one of them, Martins comes across the line. I don't think he will, and Nope stays in 21st. There comes Kloss, who doesn't improve, but he's now clear of that McLaren, so he might be able to get a clean lap in.
Lopez starting his final lap.
Yep, as Carr still getting held up there. Galloway now then, on a lap now then. Doesn't look like he's having any issues with the balance at the moment, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's still having to do some alterations in the steering wheel as he's actually coming back
a little bit off the pace though.
Galloway only doing one flying lap then before his session is done with. 10 seconds left with Volker crosses the line, Quark crosses the line, 8, 7, 6, 5, and then it is 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, and the checker flag is out. Griffiths doesn't make it. He only just didn't make it, so Chung is the last one to cross the line there, as Chatfield now then just making his
Wilson
way.
going out just for a mileage run.
As Chatfield might try and use a bit of slipstream from here in front, but it doesn't improve and he stays in 8th position. Videri now then, around the final turn, he will go in the Aston Martin. He now crosses the line and doesn't improve. Kupok now then, his final flying lap of testing now then, as he now just makes his way into the final 2 turns. If I'm being honest, I think the tweaker settings for the T-Cam need adjusting for the AlphaTauri because it looks a little bit weird, but he doesn't improve. Willow's across the line, and he doesn't improve, stays where he is. Here comes Barches Kloss in the Haas, and no improvement for him, but he's had a good session regardless. Lopez doesn't improve. Gal across the line in the AlphaTauri, he doesn't improve, nor does Carr because he got held up. Galloway's coming back into the pits. Volker, what's he doing in the Lambo in his final lap?
A little understeer there for the left-hander.
Yep, as he now makes his way through into the final couple of corners now then. Volker into the final corner and onto the pit straight now then will go the Lamborghini Tester and the 5-time champion, no improvement. Quark doesn't improve. Chung, the last driver to cross the line. Here she comes then in the second Lamborghini. No improvement, stays in 10th. And that's testing done with. Ionescu top, Lopez in 2nd, and Carr in 3rd. So going into next week, Rob, what's your early conclusions?
Red Bull v Mercedes, round 2. Let's get this.
The show on the road indeed. It should be quite an exciting season, and I'm definitely looking forward to it, especially given that these cars look a little bit more twitchy with these new physics. I think that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on, the drivers having to wrestle with the cars a little bit more throughout the season. It should make the racing quite a spectacle to watch. But anyway, that has been it then from pre-season testing for the top class. I hope you have enjoyed it. Obviously, everything was happening a day late, of course, because of the snow issues that Yuri had on Monday. But eventually, we got pre-season testing going. But that has been it then. I hope you have enjoyed it. We will see you guys on Monday, in fact. I don't know if Rob will be there or not, but we will see you on Monday for Formula E, of course. Formula E will be having its first race of the season, the Sao Paulo E-Prix at Interlagos. So Formula E will be in action. Of course, no pre-season test for Formula E and World Champ Cup because for timing reasons on Yuri's end. So we'll see you on Monday for that. But in terms of the top class, we will see you next Tuesday and Wednesday at the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne for the start of the new season. And it should be a very exciting one indeed. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. I've been JW97. He's been Robert Ionescu. And we will see you next week for the start of the 2022 season. See you then.
Auf Wiedersehen.